Hello, friends. This is Worm, critically acclaimed for having a spicy opinion on certain things. And today we are going to talk about one of those spicy opinions that I have in regards to contest mode Crota's Raid. Now, Crota's End Raid, sorry, I should say. Now, let me precurse this video by saying I'm not one to ever believe in elitism. I know that a lot of people have issues with Saltagreppo because he's an elitist, and other YouTubers and content creators and stuff like that. I don't necessarily support those. However, I have seen a huge number of individuals posting on different levels of media, Reddit, the Bungie forums, even on Facebook, Bungie Destiny pages, because yeah, I'm old, I'm 26, I still use Facebook, and lots of people are complaining that contest mode for Crota was too hard and it was unfair, right? And this, in my opinion, is simply not true. Okay, but let's break down why I don't think it is and why I think a lot of people are saying this. First of all, let's take a look at the history of contest mode / day one raids. Okay, all the way back to the Last Wish, which was arguably like the pinnacle of Destiny 2 raids. Still is the biggest raid in Destiny 2. If we remember correctly, Last Wish had literally 2 teams that completed it in the first 24 hours. That's it, too. There are 12 people in the world that have I don't remember the name of the emblem, but had the emblem for the day one completion of Last Wish raid. Right? It is the lowest raid beat or raid clears on a day one in existence. Now, there have been some other ones such as Val'Qor, which is very difficult. And let me back up just one second. I realized Last Wish was difficult for a different reason than some of our contest modes are, but contest modes are meant to be difficult. They are meant to be not only difficult, but they're meant to be a level playing field for everybody, as Bungie says, to compete in, right? Because here's the thing, players like Salt and Datto and stuff like that go for these day one raids and participate in the races and stuff, they are players that get the time to play for 10, 11, 12 hours a day, right? They're not players like you or I, where we get we get to play for a couple hours a day. Like, obviously I'm blessed to be able to play more than the average player, but the reason Bungie built this contest mode into raids is to give everybody a fair chance, because the players that can play for 12 hours a day knowing that there's a raid race coming can grind out XP and all this stuff to bring their level up substantially higher than other players. Okay, that's why one of the modifiers in contest mode is, of course, a locked level, right? So it's meant to bring players to a level playing field. It's also meant to, I guess, add entertainment to the challenge, right? Because level is not everything. Okay, level, we've seen time and time again, countless seasons past, where Bungie will cap players' levels at 5 below. Last season, I think it was what it was. Everybody's player level was capped 5 below the seasonal activity. What was it? Deep dives, I think is what it was. 5 below deep dive. So no matter if you were 1810 or 1790, or 1806, you were 5 levels under the enemies, and they were power matched to you. Now, this is it's not a new concept, okay? And like I said, it's brought into the day one raid to add fairness, but we all know that just because your power level is capped does not mean you can't still be powerful. Like, there were builds that could absolutely tear through deep dives, and there were builds that really struggled in deep dives, even though everybody's capped at basically the same power level. So Bungie adds a couple of other modifiers to these day one raids to make them more challenging. Okay, then if we go back, we look at all the raids, I don't have the raids pulled up and the completion rates, but the where I want to focus is the last raid that we got before Crota's End was Root of Nightmares. Root of Nightmares had record numbers of clears. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Root of Nightmares had like 35,000 teams clear it in the first 24 hours in the contest mode, right? That's a lot. It's like, that is not just a lot, that is like miles and miles above other day one encounters. Now, was this done intentionally? I don't really know. I know that, there was a bug with Thunderlord, allowing Thunderlord to do basically double damage, which probably or maybe not double damage, but it allowed Thunderlord to do substantially more damage. That probably contributed to it. The ease of the boss fight contributed to it. Like, Root of Nightmares, by and large, was an easy raid. Right, I would say that the most difficult encounter of Root of Nightmares was the third encounter. I don't remember that boss's name, but that Cabal boss was a tough one. Okay, but 35,000 teams, I don't think it was players, again, I think it was teams, correct me if I'm wrong, cleared that raid. Then we go to Crota's Inn, where we only had a couple of thousand teams clear Crota's Inn. And I think what it is I think that players, and it happens every single time, players are spoiled by the most recent examples, right? Root of Nightmares. Root of Nightmares was the most recent example of a day one / contest mode raid, and players cleared it multiple times. I mean, you had people clearing it with, meme loadouts and stuff like that. You had players being carried through it on day one. Like, the day one Root of Nightmares emblem, to me, is not anything crazy special because so many players were able to get it because that raid was very simple. It was very easy. I don't want to say super easy, but it was relatively easy compared to other day one completion or day one raids, right? So players already jump to that mindset of what was Root of Nightmares. Then we get to Crota's Inn, and Crota's Inn dialed up those, that difficulty to the next level. And the difficulty in Crota's Inn, you could definitely feel it. You can feel it on contest mode. You can feel it off contest mode. And I think the primary difference between Root of Nightmares and Crota's Inn is in Crota's Inn, there's a lot more communication that is needed. And this was one of the things we talked about in yesterday's video on why I think Crota's Inn is one of the best raids in Destiny 2. It's because Crota's Inn requires communication. It's not an insane amount of communication, but it requires every single player to know what to do. Like in the Nezarec boss fight, think about it. You need, 2 players that know what to do, basically? And everybody else just needs to know what plate to run to. Like, there's not this whole chalice mechanic. There's not, okay, take care of these enemies and these enemies. Literally, you can have 4 people doing ad clear during the Nezarec boss fight, and only 2 people need to actually pay attention to the mechanic. That's not the way that Crota's Inn is. Okay, so when it comes to Crota's Inn and people saying, oh, it was too hard, we needed it to be dialed back and stuff like that, I don't think that that's the case. Okay, and I'm gonna politely call out Psylocke from yesterday's comments, because Psylocke has been a long-time follower on the channel, and we have agreements, we have disagreements, it's all good, but Psylocke said he felt like it should have been easier to clear. Right, and he said not easy to the point that every LFG group could do it, but easy to the point where some LFG groups would have the potential to do it. And to that, I say, number one, that was definitely the case. Like, Bungie definitely met that mark, because there were LFG groups that were able to clear it. I had 2 people on my friends list that cleared day one Crota's Inn raid, and I asked both of them, I was like, did you have a preset fire team or did you use LFG? Both of them said they used LFG. So it is possible for players to complete contest modes with LFG. Okay, the issue, the reason why so many players can't complete it is because there are a vast number of players who simply don't have the, I don't want to say the knowledge, but they don't know how to combo their attacks to deal enough damage. They don't know how to manage, their abilities. They don't know how to manage the enemies, the boss and the knights in there, the thralls, the cursed thralls, the sword bears. They don't know how to manage that. And in I responded to Psylocke yesterday, and I said, quite literally, skill issue, right? Because it kind of does boil down to a skill issue. I mean, look at who cleared the day one raid. Look at what they were using. It was Lament and Surge mods. How many players do you know in Destiny 2 currently that do not have Lament and Surge mods? Like, there's nobody in Destiny that doesn't have Surge mods. Surge mods are given to everybody, right? Laments, I know some players probably don't have it. That's fine. But the majority of players, especially those that are attempting contest mode, have laments on them. Okay, these, players like Salt, players like, Datto, Astacross, like the players that got a day one clear, they all had the same strategy. It was use laments and Surge mods and just beef out as much damage as you can, and of course stay alive, right? It's not some wild loadout. It's not, everybody has to have bait and switch and or reconstruction bipod apex predators or anything like that, because that would be more of a bar, because it's like, okay, we've got crafted apex predator with bipod and reconstruction, right? That's more difficult to achieve, right? Because it's a raid weapon, number one, and it's crafted, number two. But no, Lament is something that most players in the game have. Surge mods, everybody has the potential to put those on. So when players are saying it should be easier, blah, 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 like I have to disagree with that. Like, I think the difficulty of Crota's in contest mode was right where it needed to be. It was right where it needed to be, because teams were able to cross that line. And if you look at the teams that were able to cross it, it was teams that they play together regularly. They have preset fire teams. Look at the World's First. They literally do every single World's First as a group together. Like, they have the ebb and flow that you want in raid groups to successfully clear encounters. LFGs don't have that same potential. With LFGs, people get mad at each other. They get frustrated. Like, well, I would do this if so-and-so would do this. Like, if you watched like Salt and his team clear, they didn't have any of that infighting going on. And that's so common in these LFG raid groups. It's not an issue with the game. It's not an issue with the game's difficulty. It is literally an issue with the actual players trying to form LFG teams, and the fact that people just don't get along, right? They just don't get along. And of course, I attempted it, not very long, okay, but I attempted a couple of runs on, several different encounters during contest mode, and I could not find an LFG team that could handle their own, and the next thing we have to remember is these players who are able to clear on day one. If you look at their builds, never mind their mods and stuff like that, they have tier 10 resilience, they have tier 10 recovery, or they have very high stats that are focused in all the right points. When you go to LFG and you find LFG teams, you'll find, hunters that are running tier 10 mobility and have tier 1, like you see in this video, tier 1 resilience, because that's what my hunters rock. And I just grabbed this random gameplay from today, but that's what people rock. Like tier 1 resilience will not fly in a day one raid. It's not a feasible thing to have happen. Like, you literally would have to find a way to take the minimum amount of damage, and in contest mode that's not feasible, but that's what players, that's what they go with. And it's not bad, it's not wrong to have a loadout you're comfortable with. You see in the background here, I'm using tier 1 resilience. I love this build. I absolutely love Tyranny of Heaven. It's got Dragonfly Incandescent on it. It is fantastic, right? I'm using Caliban's Hand, and I'm building mobility and strength. No resilience whatsoever. Like I said, tier 1, that's like 2% resistance, right? It's not something I would take in a day one raid, but if it was something that I was comfortable with and that I used frequently, yeah, I might want to take it into a day one raid, because that's what I feel comfortable with. My Strand Titan has tier 10 resilience, tier 10 discipline, and tier 8 strength, if I'm not mistaken. And then I have Font of Vigor, I think is what it is, which gives me tier 10 strength when I have armor charges, which I have literally 24/7 basically. So I have triple tier 10s. That's something I feel comfortable with. That's something that could be feasible. But again, I play a lot more than the average player. The average player might not or likely does not have this same stat distribution on the same exotics, right? They might love Omnioculus, like, oh man, I love Omnioculus. I really do, but I don't have an Omnioculus build with high resilience. Like, I've used D2 Armor Picker to try to get as high resilience as I can, and it's just not there, right? And yes, I could save up armor through this season, so the next time the day one raid comes around, I could have tier 10 resilience, but for this weekend, I didn't have it. Right? So if I was to play on my hunter, if I was to play on Omnioculus hunter, I would be stuck at tier 4 resilience. Better than tier 1, but not the best. Not by a long shot. Okay, so when it comes to contest mode, I think contest mode is right where it is. Again, the players who beat it, they have the stats, they have the builds, and they have the communication within their fire team that LFG players just don't have. When you make an LFG fire team finder, you can know what to do, previous raid clears, blah, blah. You can put like all this stuff in there, but you're at the mercy of random people across the internet. And of course, day one contest mode, that LFG form is full of people trying to get their day one clear, and everybody can get in there and they know what to do. Like, okay, I've watched, the raid guide that Rick Kakis put out, so I know how to do it, blah, blah, blah. But again, without that certain ebb and flow that so many players have when they're, grouped up and they've done it together for so long, you're not going to get those same results, right? So when people say contest mode was too hard, I disagree. I have to wholeheartedly disagree. I think that every contest mode that we have had has been right where it needs to be, including Root of Nightmares. And Root of Nightmares is an interesting one because, of course, Root of Nightmares had so many clears. It was incredible. It really was. And I think Bungie also did that on purpose so that players had a chance to like feel empowered. Like, I got my first ever day one clear, my first only. I still have people on my friends list that rock the emblem from their contest mode Root of Nightmares clear, right? It's like, it's a big deal for players. But when it comes to contest mode, I think I wholeheartedly believe it was right where it needed to be. They don't need to dial back boss health. They don't need to dial back, the enemy aggression or the modifiers or the light level. Like, nothing needs to be changed about contest mode. I think it's right where it is. It allows the elite players to clear it easily. It allows players who have high skill to clear it with, with their fire teams. And it also allows for top tier solo players to find LFGs, put LFGs together that they can also do it, albeit more difficult, but they can also get the clear. It's not impossible to clear it with LFG. It's just very difficult. And I think that's where it needs to be. But with that being said, I want to hear your thoughts on, sorry, let me start that over. I want to hear your thoughts on the difficulty, the contest mode. Like, do you think contest is fine? Do you think it needs to be changed for the better or to make it more difficult? Like, what are your thoughts on contest? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, with that being said, that's my thoughts. Let me hear yours. Also, like the video. It helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content. And of course, watch the videos that you see on the end screen because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks that you will like them. Guys, I'll see y'all in the next one and you'll have a good night. Bye for now.